When I got back to San Francisco, I realized things were changing. I liked it, but things had changed. So I decided that what I was going to do, the first thing I did was go. And I had my one roll of film, Instamatic, if anybody remembers Instamatic, developed. And the 24 shots, only 17 came out. And I took it to this new guy that had just moved to San Francisco the previous fall, named Harvey Milk. And he and his partner Scott at Castro Camera are the ones that developed that roll. Now, Harvey was very definitely the prototype Jewish Yankee. That's what he called me, the prototype Texas, whatever. But he loved looking at everybody's film, and he was fascinated by mine because he wasn't getting an awful lot of international gay vagabond pimps in there. So I got that done, and I ended up going then back to the Nude Commune that was 100 miles north of San Francisco outside Geyserville. It was actually called the Geysers, close to Cloverdale, Geyserville. Here's a little background on that. And not a lot, actually. But in 1900, it had been the epicenter chic Victorian Edwardian spa. And it was on the same fault line and destroyed by the same earthquake that had destroyed San Francisco in 1906. So therefore, what you had was all this natural steam rising, but the steam room would be like the end of the earth, like, Mad Max. And the pool would still be there, and even though the pool was now, let's say, 70 years old, there'd be a big boulder in the pool, but it was also a nude commune, and what had happened was this, that somewhere during Prohibition in the 20s, that this property had been won in a gambling game by this guy, and then his grandson is the one that owned it currently now. And his grandson really was anti-war, Vietnam and everything, and he let anyone that was AWOL or anything else, anyone that wanted to stay at the Nude Commune could stay for $1 a day. And I ended up loving it. And then I built a tree house. I mean, a redwood had fallen into a California laurel, and I built a tree house, with whatever lumber I could find just lying around and things like that. So I kind of realized then, that it doesn't matter. Everything's relative. People were looking at me like, well, isn't he fancy? A tree house. You've got 2 votives. I've only got 1. I'm on meth. I think I'll take one of your votives. That's the way it worked. But I liked it a lot, and really, honestly, it was a nude commune. And the thing I really liked is at that point, bisexuality was considered kind of the thing to do. I mean, that was really kind of like what you were supposed to strive for as enlightenment, and I felt that it was really helpful for me to be trying to help a lot of those heterosexual men be more trendy. Let's just see. So there'd be usually 3 orgies a day, and I'd get to the point where I'd think, well, do I really want to go, I'm reading and I'm up in the treehouse, and I think, do I really want to go to the 1:30 orgy or not, It's kind of like my mother was Catholic. It was about, do I want to go to early or late Mass, Isn't that an unfortunate comparison? It's a good thing we have a new pope. But I did like it. I didn't really like orgies because after a while, it's kind of like going, I mean, it's when you go to a lot of places that have buffets, you realize they've got the same thing every time you go, But I did think that it was, who is over there? She is loving that. Have you ever been to an orgy? But, I mean, orgies are not my thing, but you know what? Let me tell you something. I found that was the missing link to get me over that rape episode. I liked the fact that, and it was also interesting because it was an odd form of dermabrasion. I mean, why use a loofah? Everybody's writhing all over you, So, telling you cannot take this audience anywhere, I can tell you that. Lord God, and it's a work night. And So finally, though, and this is also true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I was up in my treehouse reading. I was actually reading Charlie Chaplin's paperback book, autobiography called Memoirs of a Millionaire Tramp. And that's what I was reading. And I heard what sounded like an atomic woodpecker at the bottom of my tree. And I swear to God, they had tacked an eviction notice on it. I was evicted from my tree. And the reason was, God struck me dead. They were evicting everybody from the entire geysers because the guy had sold it to the state of California to make the largest geothermal plant, which I think somebody told me has been closed down now because it's, again, on a fault line, But we're all evicted, and they gave us no warning. I mean, it was instant eviction. So I just left with what I could. I mean, it was so Katrina. I've got nothing. So all of a sudden now I hitchhike back into San Francisco. And when I get to San Francisco, several things happened. One, when I got to San Francisco, I realized even more that things were changing. That didn't mean it wasn't for the better in a lot of ways, but I mean, all the guys were getting regular jobs and everybody was getting kind of assimilated into the normal world. And I liked that big bohemian world I'd been in. And then the other thing that happened was that the gay culture had created itself, and the gay culture was starting to become very, in my mind, very restrictive, just like the world that I had fled. So all of a sudden, there was like, instead of listening to this kind of music, there was be boom, 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 boom. Everybody looked the same. There were never any women. I'd think, can we have some women around here? And they'd say, they'd look at me suspiciously, like, what do you want women? So I thought, well, I think maybe this has run its course. And then I end up getting some sort of a communication from my sister telling me that, unfortunately, our mother was dying. So I must tell you, at this point, I really was saying goodbye to a lot. First of all, I've left the geysers, which, all kidding aside, I really loved being there. I mean, how free did that feel? And frankly, I had such an awful image of my body, as any rape victim does. And to be living in the nude and everybody think you were normal, I was very healed by that. And then, but I was in San Francisco then, and it just wasn't the same anymore. And then on top of that, I'm hearing that Mother is terminally ill. So I remember saying my goodbye to San Francisco and then getting on a plane to go home. And here's what I have to share with you about the experience of us losing our parent. Because it's one of the few things that is a tragically unifying part of all our lives. Because unless we predecease our parents, which God forbid, then we're going to have to bury them. And it happens to be the adult adventure that any of us that are honest enough know is going to happen, and the one that none of us truly can bear to think will happen.